they can't keep it secret though, right? Like in the co-creation community, Airbus, they couldn't just be like, okay, now nobody tell anybody about all the problems we solved and all the products. So that's kind of a cost, right, to co-creation.
Yeah, the security risk aspect when working with the larger companies was always a question. And so what we had to do is we had to go through these different efforts where you had to separate out what was proprietary and potentially a risk to share because you don't want your competitors knowing it and stuff like that. And what was willing to be open and stuff to kind of brag about the nature of the innovation, right? Which is the point. It changed the culture of some of the companies that we worked with in that they thought that it all had to be like quiet and in that black box and secretive when they realized sharing and having these collaborative, challenges and seeing how the people worked with each other in community and then how they were able to work with Airbus post-selection of the winner, which was called the Velator, right? That whole process opened their eyes to there are better ways of doing these things. And so it even changed aspects of the culture internally on how they do those things. Not everything needs to be black box, right? There is some aspects of things that can be public that they can draw value from outside voices on and be able to innovate. And so from just using that as an analog, right? The Airbus, there's still a lot of proprietary things that they have to do, especially with some of the more regulatory hurdles that they have to deal with. But at the same time, the idea of co-creation and collaboration is seen through a different lens just from that exposure. Right?
Well, and even then, it's not like Airbus had to share anything proprietary in that challenge. I'm not aware of anything they're like, hey, we need design around this particular super secret thing that we're trying to, like, you don't need to do that.
Not on the initial brief in the ignition kit.
Right.
Which by Oliver, for context, ignition kit was a list, like the brief, a list of deliverables, but it was also assets we were willing to give to the community that helped them formulate their design. So sometimes it would be CAD, sometimes it would be design templates, things like that. In the case of Airbus, what it was a bunch of envelopes of space of where the motors could go, the wingspan, the height, the storage capacity. These were envelopes, right? So if you're a Formula One guy, you kind of understand that in the rule set, you have all those envelopes of space that they allow for rules. We did the same thing in co-creation. So in that, they didn't give away a lot in the ignition kit. You're correct, Chris, right? It was just those envelopes and a really good hefty list of deliverables, which is smart, right? The thing is, though, is in the midst of the innovation that happens in co-creation, there is still risk of exposure that what is created within that sort of pantheon of ideas is now proprietary to Airbus because that's the things they're looking to option. Guess who else sees that? Any one of their competitors. And so there's still a level of risk that they were interested in. But the thing is all it says is what those innovations are, not how you choose to achieve them. Right? And that was kind of our spin towards, like, not just with Airbus, of course, but with other companies that we had worked with. This is like, yeah, it says what the feature is. Like, Nico DePire could tell you just tons of stories about how the UDV situation went down with Domino's. He was actively and heavily working on that. I was on the community, so I didn't get the opportunity to work on that. But some of his stories talk about things like being that it was more marketing driven, you want people to know that these are the innovations, but you don't tell them how you do them, right? Those things can be just as powerful both from a marketing and a product development standpoint as if you try to black box it and keep it secret up until you launch it.